Welcome you guys to another episode of Line Mentality, the podcast where we talk to lineman people about lineman things. Today I have for you guys Tony Shiffman, the head coach for Fort Madison High School in Iowa, but also, and very importantly, the co-founder of Hog FB Chat hashtag on Twitter, which is a very active community of offensive line people. And we're very honored to have you on the show today, Coach. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about that Hog Football Chat Twitter thing. I only discovered it probably like about 18 months ago. It's got to be, what season are you in and how'd that get started?
I think we're on the fourth season now. We just started season 4. So it got started 2014. I can remember being on Twitter. I was never really active on Twitter before. I mean, I had it and, I messed around with it and would tweet some things here and there, but I was never really active as a coach on 2014. I remember I was at home at my parents' house and we were watching bowl games. And I was kind of looking at Twitter, just trying to follow it a bit. And I saw a couple people talking about, I remember exactly, it was I think it was an Oregon-Florida State game. So it was when Mariota was playing and Jameis Winston was playing. So I remember watching it, kind of following along and tweeting a couple things here and there. And then it got, I saw Coach Fisher, who started he runs the Texas high school football chat. And we kind of refer to him as the Godfather because he's the one that kind of got this whole ball rolling. So I remember seeing it and kind of sending him a message and saying, "Hey, I'm not in Texas, but can I participate in this?" And said, "Yeah, absolutely, jump in." So started jumping in on that, and then got friendly with Jack Dingus, and maybe 2 or 3 months after we started, an offensive line one. And I said, absolutely, that'd be fantastic. Messed around a bit and tried to figure out a name for it. And we came up with Hog Football Chat. And I remember we started it. And I think I can remember for some reason this number pops in my head because I thought it was the coolest thing ever. We had 27 coaches participate the first night. And so I thought that was like the best thing. I was like, oh my gosh, 27, this is awesome. This is amazing. Just took off from there and it really blew up. It's something that I look forward to every week. It's something that I can, I've automatically got, a friendship with hundreds and thousands of coaches on Twitter and can, meet anybody and anywhere and talk football and they'll know, kind of what we are and our brand. And it's just been awesome to be a part of and to continue and keep going.
That's amazing. Yeah, you guys have really got it going. I mean, there's got to be thousands and thousands of people participating actively. And then, I know for me, before I started Line Pro, I was kind of following along and still follow along pretty quietly. It's kind of intimidating almost to speak up, because so many guys are in there and it's a club. You guys really got it going.
Oh, definitely, definitely. Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of coaches that will. I don't ever recognize their name or anything because so they just watching it, they're just kind of following it. So I've talked to a bunch of people that are like that don't even really participate. So that's kind of cool. We want. It's networking, it's getting, it's collaborating with other coaches across the country. And it's just, there's nothing but positive things that come from any of those chats. Ours, Texas, No Fly Zone, the Florida high school football chat, all of them. They've all got, it's all just positive things for coaches and for our profession.
Yes, absolutely. It's been a huge benefit to the O-line world. And I feel like, at least on my news feed, O-line Twitter has just taken over the whole site. It seems like, everybody's really
it's a ton. And it's good. And it's good stuff too. Every now and again you get a little bit of bickering, but for the most part, the content, the LaCharles Bentley puts out amazing videos, Matt Jones with the lineman lunch, he puts out amazing stuff. Nate Leonard puts out amazing stuff. So it's good. It's for young coaches, had I had this in 2007 when I started coaching, I mean, gosh, I've already got notebooks full of stuff. I'd have had, 3 times as many just from all the information, all the good content and drills and just stuff being shared.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Me too. I mean, I'm constantly picking stuff up, and it just goes to show you that it's a beautiful thing that's happening lately in the O-line world. There's so much information sharing, largely thanks to you guys and the Texas Football Chat and all those guys on Twitter, LaCharles Bentley and Coach Leonard and all those guys, Matt Jones, of course, like you mentioned. That's a great one. And it just feels like there's a mix of everybody kind of getting on the same page and creating a base layer of what we all kind of agree on. And then also discovering that there's really a wide array of what is acceptable, and there's a lot of different ways to do every type of block.
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely. I mean, you've been around football for a long time. I've been around football for a long time. Any coach always wants to learn why they do this that way. And so maybe I can take something from a coach in Wyoming and put it in my repertoire and use, some of those things that he does for my guys. And like I said, it benefits everybody.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. I've almost found as a coach that, that looking at things from 2 or 3 or 4 different opinions and angles, it really helps me to decide what I like as a coach. My personal philosophy changes and molds and melds based from the factor of having to say, oh, well, that's an interesting take. Why is it that I disagree? Or why is it that I agree? There's something about Twitter, though, that I think it's the 180 characters or however many it is, that it just, everything seems to come off triggering and guys get upset, and get into those bicker matches, which is good too. It's good to argue. Right. That's one way to get through things, and hopefully people don't take it too personally.
No, and that's the thing. I don't ever take anything really for the most part when I tweet stuff out. It's tough though sometimes. You can't tell inflection in the voice. You can't tell sarcasm. You can't tell kind of how they're saying things because it is just text. It is just words. So I think a lot of time and basically arguing the same thing. They're just one person saying it this way, the other person saying it another way. So it's kind of funny how that works like that. But I think at the end of the day, everybody knows that we're all we're striving for the same goal and we're trying to do the same thing and be, as good as we can for everybody we're involved with. So at the end of that, I think everyone's kind of on the same page and on each other's side.
Definitely. Absolutely. I feel the same way. We're having a tiny bit of connectivity issues, so people will just have to bear with us. There's not much we can do about it. It seems like, that Fort Madison, is that quite out in the country when it comes to Iowa? Yeah.
It's not so much. We're right on the Mississippi River. But we're about 20 minutes away from Burlington, which is kind of, it's probably about 25,000 people. About an hour and some change away from Iowa itself. Proud of the people who come from it and proud of the Bloodhounds.
Absolutely. Yeah. Let's talk about the Bloodhounds. So you've been the head coach since the 2017 season.
Yes.
And you came in the summer, which I know from experience, not being a head coach, but just watching a head coach come in. That's pretty late in the game to come in and get things going. But you guys have had some success.
Yeah, we did. We came in, I was hired in March, late March, and got to come down in April and meet the kids. And then basically didn't come back until June 1st. I had to finish my school year down in Tennessee. So it was a lot of kind of social media communication and email communication. And luckily I had still have a great strength and conditioning coach who kind of was able to keep things going and keep things moving and not really keep, but get things moving and get things started while I was away. So he did a great job. And then we got in June and I kind of had to finish hiring a couple staff guys, but we went in and jumped in, both feet and were able to get things going. And we had a good senior class. We had great athletes in that senior class and guys, we had a couple new guys that came out that hadn't played before that were real big contributors. So it's a lot of it was just, they wanted leadership and they wanted structure and they wanted to be a part of something that, was bigger than them. And we had some guys that fought that a bit, but for the most part, we had a good buy-in and it showed, we were able to go 4-5, break a couple records along the way, and have some, and win some games and do some things that really hadn't been done around here in a couple of years.
I love it. Yeah. It's always awesome to see somebody come in, especially an O lineman and an O-line coach come in and get a program starting to turn around. How are you guys looking for next year?
We'll be all right. It's going to be year 3 for a lot of kids. So, the buy-in is there. We had the buy-in last year too. We just were a little, we lost a lot from that first year going into year a bit tougher. So, we took a step back and we're 3-6, but, I told the kids they went, the senior class won 7 games. So, as they're 2 years on varsity essentially. So that, so to go from 7 combined over the last 7 in 2 years, that's a true testament to just those guys and to everybody involved in the program. And next year we're going to be all right. We're going to be young in some spots, but we're going to be, we're going to have 3-year starters in some spots. So it's going to be a good mix of experience and learning on the fly. And I think we're going to be pretty good.
Awesome. Glad to hear that. Very good. Well, so you yourself played at Division III Illinois College.
Yes.
And that's the Blue Men?
Blue Boys.
Blue Boys. That's right. Blue Boys. Yeah.
Blue Boys.
And so let's talk about that a little bit, because there's something where here on the West Coast and the Northwest, we do obviously have, Division III NAIA schools, but I think a lot of the kids just don't understand how awesome it is the further east you go, that you guys play in big games and, national championship style tournaments and all these kind of things. And there's definitely this feeling where everybody's thinking kind of D1 or bust. And I'm always trying to get the guys to realize just how great of a time they can have playing smaller college football.
Right. It was, and even when I played, I graduated college in 2003. So, there still was a little bit of that stigma back then. Mount Union was just kind of, they were rolling a bit, but they weren't really as big as they are now. And you look now and you've got guys that are deciding to go to D3 schools instead of going to Division I schools. You look at some of those programs down in Texas, and especially, Mount Union and St. Thomas up in Minnesota, and they've got Division I guys transferring in every single year. Every year. So I try to tell kids, we don't have anybody going to play college football this season from Fort Madison. But, I try to tell those kids that D3 is just, it's football. It's still football. You're still lifting with your teammates. You're still practicing with the same, those guys. You're still eating dinner with everybody. It's still the same thing. It's just, obviously it's on a smaller level, but it's still football. But I wish I could go back and just kind of be more sponge and soak more of it up and appreciate it more than what I did at the time, But it's just, football's football. I don't care if it's Division III, Division IV, NAIA, Division, whatever, it's still football, and appreciate it for what it is. And you still get to play the game you love, and you still get to, play it with your buddies and have a great time doing it.
Absolutely. And I couldn't agree with you more, and I like to think that in other lifetimes I would have probably played at a smaller school, especially in 2019. I'm not quite 6'2", just a hair under 6'2". So, I always wondered, I got pretty lucky to see the field like I did at Oregon State. Obviously,
right.
Worked hard and all that. But I think that there's a lot of guys very, very similar to me who end up playing at those smaller schools. And it would have been fun, a lot less stressful to be able to compete a little more, because I was always having to fight to keep on my feet. These
right.
Especially these days. You have to be really good to go compete at a Power 5 conference level now. Always was the case, but now it's getting very competitive. All these guys coming in from Texas and Florida, and I'm constantly telling guys, hey, there's so many schools you've never heard of, so many places you could go that play big football games. So I think it's a great message to get out there. As a head coach in 2019, how do you see recruiting? What are some things that kids can do? What are some things that you do as a coach to facilitate recruiting these days?
I push it on them, but I tell them too. I say, look, if you don't want to play college football, don't pursue this, because you're going to have guys. We're going to have colleges that come in here and say, look, there's no harm if you don't want to play. Just don't waste their time. Don't waste your own time, essentially. But with so much technology, with Huddle, with Twitter, with field level, with all those different levels of recruiting, it's so much easier for. I remember when I was quote unquote getting recruited, I just remember showing up to school one day and our head coach saying, "Hey, go down to the cafeteria. Such and such is here. They want to talk to you." Okay, fine. And the only reason they wanted to talk to me was because I told my head coach that I wanted to play college football. So, they didn't know who the hell I was. They didn't know who Tony Shiffman from Springfield High School was. They just, my head coach knew I wanted to play college football and pushed me in that direction. So, but now there's so much different technology out there that they can be found that, if they want to play football in college, there is a place for them to play. I don't care what their talent level is. I don't care what they've done. I don't care if they've never started a game in high school. If they really want to play college football and put in the work, and do their due diligence and contact the coaches and tell me, and I can contact the coaches, they can play college football. There's no question about it. So it's definitely a lot different than when I was playing. But at the end of the day, when you boil it down, it's still getting that exposure and still getting out there and making a name for yourself.
Absolutely. And you were technically a smaller O-lineman.
Yeah, not technically. I was.
And then you have smaller linemen on your team, and I think you guys said you run the spread.
Yeah.
So what are some tips, tricks, secrets of being the smaller lineman and still finding success?
I always told the guys I'm not going to overpower anybody. I was strong for my size, I guess, but I'm not going to overpower anybody. But what I can do is out-quick them and out-technique them. So, what I always, when I coach them up, anywhere I've been is that, I'm not looking for you to take this 275-pound defensive tackle 10 yards downfield. I'm looking for you to get your butt in his way and keep him from making a tackle on the running back. And, sometimes, you're going to get the best of that guy, and sometimes he's going to get the best of you. But as long as you are giving me, 100% effort and using your best technique as best as you can, and, using your skills that, you've been blessed with. We had our two guards this past year. One was about 240, one was about 190. And they're both at the state wrestling tournament right now, so they both got really different skill sets, and they were both able to use those skill sets to their advantage. The smaller one, was a technique guy. He was a quickness guy. He was going to get out there and get in somebody's way. And the 240 pounder is going to have a different skill set than that 190 pounder in high school. And he's not going to have to rely so much on technique and quickness, whereas he can rely on his power and kind of run through some dudes and run over some dudes, where the smaller guy's got to be more of a technician and use his quickness and speed, over his strength and power.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's perfectly put. For you smaller linemen out there, I mean, there's so many factors other than size, and weight room is one of those. And that reminds me, a lot of people might know who are watching this, that Coach Shiffman is the unofficial GIF king of O-line Twitter. I was going down your page, and there's just hundreds of GIFs, and they're all perfectly placed. I don't know how you do it, but there was one I saw where you were talking about the line, or the player who doesn't show up for any workouts, but then tells you he's going to start next year. Yeah. I thought that one was pretty funny.
Yeah, we had year one. We had that this past season, and this off season quite as much. But truthfully, with those GIFs, what people don't understand, and probably I'm probably going to embarrass myself a little bit with this. 99% of the stuff I tweet because I laugh my ass off at it. Especially the GIFs. Those things, I sit there at home around the computer and just giggle because they make me laugh. So I know that if they make me laugh, they're going to make at least somebody out there in Twitter laugh. So that's 99% of the reason why I tweet the stuff that I do out there, especially with those GIFs. I love those. Those things are amazing.
Yeah, the GIFs are a big part of Hog Football Chat.
Yeah.
And a big part of Lineman Twitter. And I'm glad they're there because I'm laughing with you. And I'm sure a lot of other people are, because your timing is pretty good.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, and the other one, you had that, I don't know what they call it, but the girl, who's looking at the camera funny, and you were saying how for a senior who says, hey, I don't want to play college football, and you say, really? Because there's some options. You could play here and there. Yeah, no, I don't want to play, but I love football. And then a year later, oh, coach, I miss football. And then you got that.
Yep.
That girl.
Yeah, I've had that, and a lot of times people will think that I'm kind of talking about people maybe involved with like Fort Madison or people that I know. that's not the case. It's stuff pops in my brain, and I've got such a scatterbrain anyways. I tell all my assistant coaches, if I don't get my words out, my phrase out, then I'll forget it. So I've got such a scatterbrain that sometimes when I'm thinking of something on Twitter, I'll just kind of type it in real quick and send it out there, just because if I don't, I'll forget it, and then I'll be scrambling trying to remember what it was that I was thinking of.
Right, absolutely. Now I noticed that you guys on Hog Football Chat had a sponsor of those padded helmets that go on the outside of helmets, and that made me think about just the whole kind of trend in football about concussions and safety. Is that something you guys have been able to utilize yet at your school, or probably need to do some fundraising?
We haven't been able to get those yet. We'd like to. I'd like to get a couple Guardian caps just to try them out and see, because we've got a couple kids who've had a couple concussion issues, and so we want to play things safe and make sure that we're doing covering our butt a little bit with them. But I haven't been able to use them, but I've heard nothing but good things from people who have used them, and really for they're built for linemen. They're built for us who we're banging our heads 65 times at practice a day. So it's something definitely beneficial for football today. And those things aren't really they're not that expensive. I think originally I remember thinking about them and seeing, oh geez, I'm not gonna be able to afford those. They're really not that bad. I don't want to say a number out the top of my head if I'm wrong, but they're under $100 a piece. They're very cost efficient and they last a while. So I think they're going to be commonplace, sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I've been noticing the map on their website populating more and more schools across the country who use them, and it totally makes sense. I wish they had that when I was playing.
Yeah.
Because in practice, you're not going to put the same product on the field if you have to slow the reps down, all the way. And to add that extra protection is just a huge opportunity. What are some other things as a head coach, as an O-line guy, what are some other things that you see happening to make the game safer when it comes to practices, and even game techniques, these kind of things that are helping to save the game today?
In regards to practice, you're seeing so many more schools almost nowadays get away from hitting. Just completely get away from hitting, and you're getting a lot of states actually now are regulating that. I just saw something on Football Scoop where the state of New Jersey just mandated only 15 minutes of contact a week for their high school team. So the states are starting to get involved in it, unfortunately. But our job as coaches to make sure things are being done properly. It's not the 70s and 80s. We're not going to go out there and run bull in the ring for a day, like some people used to do. But it's just our job. It's our job as coaches to kind of keep up with trends, and to keep up with technology, and to keep up with kind of just what's being done, and to make sure that we're teaching things the proper way. We'll teach the kids properly tackle. We'll teach them how to not use their head as a weapon. But so we'll do heads up tackling every year for all the kids, and so it's just doing that, and making sure that we don't do a lot of full tackle in practice. We'll do some early just so they get used to it, but we're not going to do a lot of hitting in practice. We're not going to do a lot of full contact stuff because, number one, we don't have the numbers to do it. We don't have a roster of 125 kids. We've got 45 kids, and our starting offense is essentially the same as our starting defense. So we're not going to be able to go those full-time scrimmages where we can go live. So and we're just it defeats the purpose of football. We're trying to play 9 games at least to make the playoffs and then further on, but you can't risk losing a guy to injury in week 3 in a practice because you're doing goal line for 30 minutes and being a stubborn coach. So we've got a good structure and a good plan, and be smart. That's essentially all it boils down to, is just be smart with your kids, be smart at your practices, be smart with your coaches, and you'll get through. You're going to have your injuries. It happens. You've always got those kind of freaky, fluky things that happen. But, as long as we're staying on top of things and keeping, letting our kids know why we're doing what we're doing, we're usually in the clear and usually come out on top.
Absolutely. I think it was probably about 10 days ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, one of those Twitter feuds did break out between a few coaches. It seemed like there was a small crowd kind of worrying about the toughness of the game, worrying about the people kind of taken away from that, and so the argument was over whether it's cool to brag about breaking your helmet or not.
Right. I remember
I found that pretty appalling. Yeah. Did you take a side on that one?
I don't ever really think it's cool to brag about breaking equipment, and this is coming from who, when I played football, my first move was usually a headbutt with the helmet, just because that's just what I did. I can show you my old helmets with tons of scars up here, and that's not saying that's the right way. That's not me saying that that's okay or that's, cool. That's just the way it was, but as far as breaking helmets, no, I've had it happen a couple of times to some kids, and it's more scary than anything else. I can remember it when I was in Tennessee. I can remember it happening to a kid, and his entire face mask blew up, the plastic pieces all blew apart, and I mean he was freaking out. So it's I'll plead the fifth on choosing a side for it, but it's in this era, in this generation, we need to do as best as we can. Kind of going back to what I was talking about being being smart. We need to be smart as coaches, and I'll just leave it at that.
Absolutely, yeah. There's going to be some trade-offs as we try to make the game safer. And it's kind of like it's kind of like a right tackle trying to keep a defensive end from getting around the edge. You have to trade off some space in order for it to take longer. If you go meet it with force, then you're just going to get whooped around the edge. And, those coaches who are unwilling to change, if we all were that way, then the game, would probably face its demise sooner.
Yeah.
And we have a chance to extend it and also improve, the safety and longevity of the kids' lives, going forward. So I'm really bullish on the safety of the game and the future of the game. And I think it's things like, training opportunities like we're providing, training opportunities like LaCharles Bentley is providing, great coaches coming back to work the game like you and the other O-line coaches, and things like Hog Football Chat, informing and getting these things out in the open and working through these issues. And I think we're slowly seeing a lot of improvement. So that's a really great thing. I was just like you. My helmet was banged up. I led with the head. And more than that, it wasn't just the games. It was practice. We had, and it was nobody's fault. It was the way the game was. Unfortunately, there still are coaches who live in that era who are coaches today. So I think it's all of our mission to kind of spread that and say, hey, you guys got to change this up. There is value in non-contact drills.
Right.
There is value in using the hands and positioning and feet. And I've found that since this whole, rugby hawk tackling thing and pursuit drills for blocking, tackling has gotten better. Blocking has gotten better. How do you feel about that?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it has. And there are a lot more progressive coaches out there than there are stubborn old school coaches. So, there are a lot more people out there doing different things and trying to save the game. Like you said, there are those old school guys and stubborn guys who are going to do it their way and they don't care. But I definitely think there are more out there trying to do good than bad. And there's always going to be new techniques and there's always going to be new ways to change things and fix things. And I think that's good. That's good for the game. As long as we can keep adapting and keep changing and keep progressing and moving forward, football's going to be here for a long, long time. And I just saw a bunch of, again, going on football. I just saw another article that said high school football is the safest it's been in years. So as long as we keep that trend, I think we're going to be all right, and we're going to keep trending upwards.
I love it. So to wrap things up with Hog Football Chat, what's the vision? What's the goal for the future? Is there any kind of further developments, or is it going to be Mondays at 8 every year and rolling forward, or what's the plan?
I think as far as Twitter goes, it's going to be Mondays at 8. That's just kind of we're kind of in that peg, and I think that's the way to be. We're really trying to kind of get these clinics going a little bit more. We've got. I'm going to go shameless plug here. We've got our third annual clinic coming up in March at those going, and maybe as we progress, maybe having 2 clinics or maybe having 3 clinics or however it is. But that's kind of what we're talking about. I'm good to do a podcast like this, but I don't know if I could run one. I don't know if I could set one up. And I know Dingus couldn't do that either. So we're always open to doing these kind of things. We've talked about maybe trying to do one, but I don't think that's in the cards. Especially with the Run the Power guys, the way they're kind of doing it right now. So we'll keep doing what we're doing with Twitter and kind of just build our brand from that and hopefully get these clinics rolling and just have fun and just be a part of the game and keep everybody involved as much as we can.
I love it. I love that. We did lose you for a second when you were saying the location, so I'm going to say it. The University of Wisconsin-Whitewater on March 16th.
Yes. Sorry. Cool. March 16th. The clinic started because of Peter Jennings, who is the offensive coordinator at Wisconsin-Whitewater. And he was a Fort Madison alum. He played football for Fort Madison High School, and then he played football for Illinois College. So we knew of each other, and we'd had a few small conversations here and there. And when I was in Clarksville, Tennessee, and he was at Rhodes College in Memphis, he reached out and said, "Hey, we'd love to have you guys down here." So that was where the first one was at. The first 2 were there, and Peter ended up going to Wisconsin, and I kind of felt it was right to keep it sort of with him. He was the one that kind of got the clinic off the ground. So we're moving up to Wisconsin this year, but kind of like I said, we'd love to have it at multiple locations eventually. That would kind of be the goal would be to get offensive line guys talking to other offensive line guys. There's nothing better than that. That's
the idea. That's what it's all about. Keep us in mind. Potentially, we could get one out here in the Northwest.
Yeah, definitely.
There's a big need. There are football clinics for coaches, but traditionally, just like a lot of football things, the big guys get a little bit overlooked. I think this year was a little better, but I know the coaches are always calling for more line content. So that's why we started this podcast. And speaking of which, I would love to have a regular bit with you and Coach Dingus, maybe monthly or every couple months, where we check in and we could go through the Hog Football Chat topics and just discuss some of those, and I could lay some film over the top of it, something like that. So something we can discuss. But I really appreciate you coming on with us. It's some great content. We talked about a lot of different things. We had a little bit of connectivity issues, but I've got a pretty talented AV guy here, my video guy. He should be able to cut around some of that and make it pretty.
I think it's mine because I'm looking outside and we got some pretty harsh winds right now. So I think it's from my end. So I apologize.
Hey, no worries at all. We're linemen. We're not fancy. That's what I'm always saying.
That's right.
We get it done in the trenches. Well, Coach, I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
We'll see you guys next time on Line Mentality.